Welcome back to Fine Tooning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can still listen to and enjoy on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Drew and I are recording this week's show on Sunday, November 16th, just 10 days out from the long Thanksgiving Day weekend. So, do you and Katie have any plans, Drew? Or
we are going to a wedding in Santa Barbara later today. That's why we are recording a little bit early. Who has a wedding on a Monday, Jim? You tell me.
Yeah.
But we're doing it. We're making it work.
Okay. This week I'm actually down in Florida with Mr. Testa and Mr. Schul. We're recording some stuff at IAAPA, that's the International Amusement Park and Attractions Association. This is their annual convention. It's the Orange County Convention Center, and hopefully we'll see some cool stuff. But as for the Thanksgiving, long Thanksgiving weekend, Nancy, I'm going to be a Thanksgiving bachelor, and Nancy's flying out to Kansas City that morning. She and her friend are doing that Hallmark Christmas experience, Kansas City, and me, someone's got to take care of the cats and turn out 35 podcasts a week. That said, though, this is also the first Thanksgiving for my family since we lost my mom back in September, and her house was always sort of ground zero for the holidays, so we're still kind of feeling our way. And Drew, you love this. What makes this especially interesting is my niece is moving into my mom's house to sort of house it while myself and my brothers and sister decide what to do with it. But with Nancy gone and my mom gone, there's no one to cook or bake for this year, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I maybe go to a movie.
You can't get Alice to come out and shower her with affection?
That we have been talking about that. My daughter is not a good flyer these days.
Okay.
And more to the point, again, somebody had to stay home and take care of the awful animals. But speaking of movies, this past week, we saw all sorts of animation-related trailers drop online, largely because, the studios want us, the folks who'll be going to the movies over the long Thanksgiving Day weekend, to be aware of the films that they'll be sending out into theaters, late next spring, early next summer. Because in theory, one of the biggest crowds of the year is about to be headed into the local multiplex, and there's no time like the present to roll out these trailers. And Drew, you were kind enough to collect a pile of these, and
yes,
we'll be talking about these later on in today's show. But for me, I guess what I find fascinating about today's media space is that these trailers don't actually premiere in theaters anymore. I mean, these days they get released online, sometimes a week or 10 days out ahead of when they'd appear, like, for example, in front of Zootopia 2 or, Wicked for Good. But so this is done so the studios can then brag about how often the new trailer for Toy Story 5 or Super Mario Brothers Galaxy got downloaded. That's the plan here?
Yeah, as far as I know, the timing actually has to do with when they send the trailers out for international prints, mostly. Oh. So that's why it's usually a week to 10 days before it arrives. But you're right, Jim. All of these will be attached to Zootopia 2 and Wicked for Good in the next few weeks. And, the fact that people are actually going to be in theaters means that they'll see the trailers, which is, everyone is very excited about after as we talked about last week, a pretty disappointing October. I think everybody's going to be back in the theaters in November, hopefully. So
we can only hope. Anyway, Drew and I will be discussing these trailers at length in a moment. But first, we have to acknowledge this show's sponsor, which is, of course, UnlockMagic.com, where you get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. And just so you know, Unlock Magic is run by the exact same team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. So just pick your dates and then grab your tickets for example, after a hard ticket. By the way, too late, you missed it. Mickey's Very Merry is completely sold out at Walt Disney World for this year, though I understand there's a few Jollywood dates left. And when you get your tickets, tell the nice folks at unlockmagic.com that Drew and Jim sent you. Okay, so as I mentioned, top of today's show, Drew and I are recording this Fine Tooning late on Sunday morning, early Sunday afternoon on the 16th. Domestic box office numbers still haven't been updated at this point, but we do have some projections. And the third Now You See 'Em, Now You Don't film, that supposedly took the number one spot. Initial projections were 23 to 24 million in North America. I just saw that that's been downgraded to 21. Quick magic related question, and you're out there in LA. Have you ever been to the Magic Castle?
I never have. I'm waiting for Chris Cox to take me. And we can discuss concierge level rooms at the Magic Castle, but yeah, no, I've never been. I've always wanted to go. The closest I got was, I believe that the after party for the premiere for the first Doctor Strange was at the Magic Castle. And I was close to getting an invite, didn't make it, but yeah, I've always wanted to go. Yeah.
I've been lucky to go twice in my lifetime. I did dinner there once and then a Sunday brunch. And for those of you who don't know, folks, this place was launched back in 1963 by Milton and Bill Larson. And what they specialize therein is close-up magic. I mean, I want to say that there's 3 and 4 different theaters, and I think the largest theater in the building has 50 seats.
Right.
Whereas,
but there's also magicians like roaming around too, right?
Yeah. Okay. In fact, I took my friend Robin Redonia there, and we literally walked up to the bar to get a drink. And there was a guy sitting there, and drew a picture of the red smoking jacket. He looked like, Sebastian Cabot's older brother. All right, and he goes, "Oh, my dear, hello," and just proceeds to chat up Robin, and she just basically said, "No, don't bother me. I don't like magic." And so, "Oh, cool. Can I show you just one trick?" And she relents. It's like, okay. And what he does is he literally takes a deck of cards out of his smoking jacket. He pulls out one card, and he puts it between her 2 hands, and lets her open it and see, it's there. And then he puts his hands on top of her hands and rubs them for like a moment, and then pulls his hands apart and says, "Open your hands, my dear." And the card is gone. And for the rest of the night, Robin, we'd be eating dinner. I look over and she would be pulling her hands apart. It's like, I physically held it. I felt it. Where the hell did that card go?
Magic.
Magic. But again, the Larsons were very nice to me back in the 90s or thereabouts. In fact, they took me down. They have an amazing archive down on the bottom floor of the Magic Castle. They have things in there like the piano bicycle that Ed Wynn used to use in his act. And I haven't been back in years, and I understand that Neil Patrick Harris is now involved in sort of keeping it up. So we'll have to work on getting you in there, Drew. I think you'd really enjoy it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And again, you need an invite. So somebody out there, even including Chris Cox, might be able to get Drew an invite. Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the box office movie version of The Running Man, and that's a Stephen King story, but that's one of the ones he wrote when he was under his Richard Bachman
That's
pseudonym,
right. If you recall the Bachman books paperback, Jim, that had those first 4 stories in it, that was one of them, which includes The Long Walk, which also was adapted recently.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, for me, the Bachman stuff always seemed bleaker than the really for real Stephen King, which is saying something, you know? But anyway, Running Man supposedly took number 2 at the box office this past weekend. Number 3 was Predator Badlands. Supposedly saw its box office in its second weekend fall off by 66%, which is disappointing because it's a great movie, but what are you going to do? I guess people headed into Thanksgiving, let me see if I wanted to see ugly faces, that yell at me, I'd stay at home with my relatives. All right. Beyond that, the only animated film in the top 10 this week was Chainsaw Man, the movie Res Arc. Initial box office suggested it's toggling somewhere back and forth between the 9 and 10 position. By the way, Alice saw this in theaters earlier this week. Really, really enjoyed it. But to now go from battling with chainsaws to fighting with rocks. You remember that King of Kings thing that was out in theaters early this Easter, right? The animated film from Angel Studio, based on the Charles Dickens version of the story.
Yes, and now they have a new one, right? David?
They do. And that's the story of the shepherd that defeated Goliath and then went on to inspire a nation. That's arriving in theaters December 19th, very same day as Avatar Fire and Ash. But what's kind of interesting about it is they're pre-selling this animated musical, and supposedly already there's over $3 million worth of tickets sold, and the folks at Angel Studios seem so confident that this is going to do well this holiday season. They've already got theaters lined up to play the sing-along version of David, which will arrive in theaters on December 31st. Your thoughts here?
Jim, it's good to have dreams, I guess. I don't know. If they're going with the selling to church groups and things like that, maybe it'll happen. But yeah, Angel Studios, interesting place for sure.
Yeah. And remember, King of Kings came out around Easter. This is headed into theaters around Christmas. Might be a smart bit of counter-programming to have something wholesome and religious, showing up at your multiplex in this window. So,
well, did you see that Avatar is running 3 hours and 15 minutes? So, you'll have at least 2 showings of David that you can squeeze in for every one Avatar.
3 hours and 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it'll be the longest of the trilogy so far. Yeah.
Wow. Are we hearing good things? Or
yes, absolutely. I particularly about Una Chaplin's performance, who is Charlie Chaplin's his granddaughter.
Jim.
So yeah.
How very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, we talked earlier on today's show about trailers, and when we get back from this break, Drew and I will share our thoughts about these upcoming animated releases. But first, this. And we're back. All right, Drew. So you were kind enough to, collect this pile of trailers as they came through. And first one today we're going to talk about is the SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants. That's opening on December 19th, by the way, the exact same day as Avatar, Fire and Ash, and Angel Studios, David. And this is, do we count the spin-off movies, the ones over on Netflix, as SpongeBob films? Because this is either the fifth. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is the seventh SpongeBob film. We got the original back in November of 2004, then Sponge Out of Water in 2015, Sponge on the Run 2021, and now Search for SquarePants. And of course, don't forget about over on Netflix, Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie that came out in August of last year, and finally Plankton the movie, That was, March of this year. And so, again, I think I admitted on an earlier episode of Fine Tooning my lucky brick gag. I'm completely juvenile, folks. I not only laughed at that joke, I laughed at the Patrick callback to,
yes.
you lost your lucky brick. I don't have a lucky brick. I'm sorry. But I have to say I'm looking forward to this. If only, to hear Mark Hamill as the voice of Flying Dutchman. What are you hearing about, Search for SquarePants?
Well, I saw this movie many months ago,
okay.
so I can tell you that it's actually funny, Jim, and that you will have plenty of laughs here, juvenile and otherwise. And the other thing that I have to say is that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles short, which is attached to it, is absolutely wonderful and very much worth the price of admission. So go buy a ticket. You'll have a great night at the movies, great animation. Just go.
Now, speaking of the Ninja Turtles short, you saw that news earlier this week about, what is it, Dora the Animated Series and the Teenage Mutant Ninja series, ending, I think they're about to launch, but we just learned that the second season is the last season? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, Jim, as you and I know, the quote-unquote second season is usually just an extension of the first season. So I think what happened was they just didn't order any more episodes, and they're just burning off the last episodes for season 2. Okay. But obviously the franchise is alive and well, and the second Ninja Turtles movie will be out in 2027. So, yeah.
Can't wait. Well, anyway, and look, it's not like anybody's ever going to get out of the SpongeBob SquarePants business anytime soon. I mean, hell, I think we talked on a recent show about the Universal Kids Park that's being built out in Frisco, Texas. That opens next year, and that will have a SpongeBob land. But I want to share. Now, my problem is I'm old, so I'm blanking whether it was Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob, who told me the story, or if it was Billy West, the voice of Philip J. Fry on Futurama. But anyway, this dates back. Actually, the story starts with the Jetsons, which debuted in primetime in 1962, but kind of, back to Dora and Ninja Turtles. It only got to one season. It got 24 episodes, and then it was done. All right, so we jump ahead 20 years. And Taft Broadcasting, which now owns Hanna-Barbera, they keep getting calls from, TV stations around the country. It's like, is the Jetsons available? Because I know the Flintstones are available, and can we play them? And they're like, well, there's only 24 episodes. It's hard for us to make a decent amount of money off of just 24 episodes. And then suddenly someone at Taft will like, well, what if we put the show back into production? And so this actually happens. In 1985, the Jetsons goes back into production. And now, mind you, they need 51 additional episodes because at that point, Drew, they'll have 75, which means that this show can then be stripped. It can be shown Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. And with 75 episodes, they can run it 15 weeks in a row without a single rerun. And so they bring back the original vocal cast. And, we're talking people like George Helen, he was George Jetson, Penny Singleton, Jane Jetson, even Mel Blanc, the voice of Mr. Spacely. And again, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. It's either Billy or Tom who told me this story, but it's one of their very first gigs because when they get to Hollywood, the show goes into production in 85, and I want to say the episodes finally begin to appear in syndication in 87. But it's either Billy or Tom who's telling me about. He's in a room full of these very old people, and there are oxygen tanks, and there are canes, and there are walkers. But when the mics come on, the years fall away, and they all sound great, and they're all doing a great job with their character. And again, it was either Billy or Tom who they just started with their career, and they had this epiphany where it's like, holy cow, I could do this job forever. This is cool. Well, anyway, I bring that up because the first episode of Futurama aired on Fox back in March of 1999, whereas the first SpongeBob cartoon, it airs on Nickelodeon May of that same year, 99. And Tom Kenny, well, he's 2 years younger than I am. He's 69, whereas Billy West is 73. And when he was sitting in that session for the Jetsons, Mel Blanc was 76 years old. And, they sat there and watched him record new lines for Mr. Spacely. We lose him like 5 years later in 89. In fact, didn't he just finish doing voices for Roger Rabbit when we lost him?
Yeah, I think that was his last. Is Roger Rabbit Roger Rabbit isn't dedicated to him. There's something that was dedicated to him, maybe Space Jam? Something, yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Roger Rabbit, though, did you see the news that, and again, this floored me, that the copyrights to Roger Rabbit have been returned to Gary Wolf?
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear Disney's response to these claims because, as you and I both know, the ownership of Roger Rabbit, a lightly contentious matter over the years, and also the fact that Gary Wolf did not say anything about Spielberg owning the character either, which is, as you and I know, part of the saga. Yeah, I don't know what to make of those comments. I don't know if he was just trying to drum up interest, but I don't know.
Between Disney and Spielberg, I don't see those rights going anywhere. So it's just sort of like, all right, it'll be interesting to hear the follow-up on that. Anyway, back to SpongeBob. SpongeBob, the movie, Search for SquarePants, being produced by Paramount Animation and Nickelodeon Movies, will be distributed by 2 theaters by Paramount Pictures, and Jennifer Dodge had just been named as the new president of Paramount Animation. She assumes that position January of next year, 2026. And I think it kind of speaks volumes about where Paramount Animation is headed, given that Dodge previously rode herd on, Spin Master's, amazing global franchise Paw Patrol. And, probably not a coincidence that Paramount is releasing Paw Patrol, the Dino movie, August of next year. So any thoughts on that?
Well, what was very interesting was that she was quoted, like on the same day they announced the Viewfinder movie or the Viewmaster movie. Did you see that? That Phil Johnston, who co-directed Ralph Breaks the Internet, is working on. So, Jim, if you've ever wanted to know what Viewmaster how that can really be applied to modern audiences, get ready. But, I was getting texts from friends who have projects at Paramount or around Paramount who were just saying, oh my God, we're screwed, because Ramsey Nato's whole sort of design for the studio was to put really creative people in charge of franchises, and then once those kind of take purchase, that would segue to an era of originals. And the feeling is that there will be no real originals at Paramount Animation with a woman who is so deeply indebted to the consumer product sides of things. Now, on the other hand, I also heard from people who said, oh, maybe my project will go forward because it's tied into whatever IP. We'll see what happens. But, it's an interesting time over there. I hope everybody's projects get finished and made and released, but a lot of uncertainty over at Paramount, I guess, about things.
Understood. Yeah. Speaking of IP, another one of the trailers you shared with me was the Super Mario Galaxy movie trailer, and any thoughts on this?
Not really. I mean, I really didn't like that first one. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I thought it was fine, but there's just nothing kind of creative. I hope that, being directed by 2 guys who made Teen Titans Go, one of the most irreverent, funny, hilarious shows, I just hope there's more of that energy in this new one. But who knows?
I have to admit, while Nancy was away, I was channel surfing and wound up killing like 2 hours just watching a slew of Teen Titans, and they are the funniest damn cartoons. But
they really are,
and basically about nothing all the time. Just sort of, there was one about surf and turf, a restaurant up on the pier that and how it was their new secret weapon. But anyway, I guess we
have to shout out, Jim, the Freakazoid episode of Teen Titans from a couple of years ago, because that was really the best.
That was great. Great. Anyway, Super Mario Brothers movie. What's kind of interesting here is this is a Universal and an Illumination not deviating from the playbook in any way. I mean, the first movie released in theaters April 5th, 2023, made for $100 million, went on to sell $1.3 billion worth of tickets worldwide. On the other hand, the Super Mario Brothers Galaxy movie, that's going to the theaters 2 days earlier, April 3rd, 2026. And from what friends at Universal are telling me, that they're anticipating same level ticket sales, if not more, worldwide. Whereas Toy Story 5, that opens in theaters, 6 weeks, 7 weeks after that, June 19th, 2026. And again, same window of time that Toy Story 4 did back in June of 2019. And again, there's a sort of repetitive drumbeat here in that, Toy Story 3 opened in June of 2010. The one thing that didn't quite hit, that was at least associated with this franchise, that also came out in the same window, was Lightyear. That was June of 2022. But I still like that movie. But again, I was dropped as a child. What did you make of the trailer for Toy Story 5?
Well, I think you and I have talked about how we're very curious how they're bringing all the characters back together, as it seemed like a pretty definitive end in Toy Story 4. But I'm always down for more of this. I thought it was interesting that Toy Story 4 was the first truly widescreen Toy Story, and they've bumped it back to the 1:8:5 ratio. So Toy Story 4 will be an outlier forever, I guess. But I don't know, the little iPad type villain seems fun. I don't know, it's very much a teaser, so
no, and that's it exactly. In fact, I want to be clear to point that out, because if you go all the way back to the teaser for Toy Story 4, in fact, that was, it was released in the same window of time, on November 3rd, 2018, and there isn't a bit of that teaser that made it into the movie. In fact, if anything, it introduced, the whole purpose of that teaser is introduce Forky. So in a weird sort of way, I'm kind of anticipating the same thing, that everything we just saw will not end up in the film. But at the same time, we did get to meet Lily Pad. So isn't that the whole point of a teaser trailer?
Right. I mean, I think that's the character voiced by Greta Lee. We have new characters voiced by Conan O'Brien, which I'm so excited about. So I think there's a lot to still be excited about, even if this teaser totally didn't work for you.
Well, all right. I just, again, I not to be a downer. And again, it's no negative November. It's all good. But look, Toy Story 4 had a great ending. It was strong. It was an emotional, but the earlier part of the movie, even with, Keanu Reeves' wonderful stunt, riding Canadian, not necessarily a really strong film. Me personally, I'm just concerned about them undoing, what I felt like Woody earned that ending, and shouldn't he be able to ride off into the sunset?
I think so. And I disagree that I actually, Toy Story 4 might be my favorite Toy Story.
Really?
This is a highly, highly controversial take, but yeah. Wow. I do agree that Woody should be able to live off his dreams. And it makes me wonder what is going on with Bo Peep. Where's Ducky and Bunny? Jim, I have a lot of questions here. So.
All right. Well, hopefully the next trailer will answer a few of these. But okay, so that's what's going on the film side of it, animation, folks. But after this break, Drew and I are going to eyeball what's going on the television side of things. But first, this. And we're back. Okay, so Drew, we've talked previously on this podcast about your childhood association with Pendleton Ward. The very talented man behind Adventure Time. But there's a brand new project coming up in December where it's not just Pendleton that's involved with this. It's Rebecca Sugar, it's Ian Jones-Quartey, and even Patrick McHale. Do you know anything about The Elephant?
No, this was like a complete surprise announcement. Basically what it is, and it's something that you and I are going to love, I'm sure, is they're describing it as a creative experience premiering on December 19th at 11 p.m. on Adult Swim. And it's 3 acts where they're kind of like, they're trading off the story. So Penn is doing one, and Rebecca and Ian are doing one together. And then Patrick McHale is doing the third one. And it is, quote, a storytelling experiment that unfolds as a collaborative surprise, ultimately merging into a single, unexpected narrative. I guess it was announced at Annecy. I didn't hear about it there, but yeah, it just sounds wonderful. I cannot wait to see it.
Okay, all right. So, but again, December 19th, Avatar, Fire and Ash in theaters. The new SpongeBob movie in theaters. David in theaters, and now this on Adult Swim the same night. I'm going to sleep in on the 20th. I'm just saying. All right. Also, you found some news about a new project over on Disney Plus, Death Stranding, which is actually based on a video game. Is that right?
Yeah, it's based on, there's been 2 video games, and yeah, this will be an anime. It sounds like it's an original story sort of based in the Death Stranding world, but yeah, the creator of the video game is involved, and he seemed very bullish about it. It's not coming out until 2027, Jim, so you have a few years after December 19th to get ready for it. But yeah, it sounds great. I can't wait.
Okay, and well, again, as we're looking at things that are more over the horizon, worth noting here that The Simpsons will be airing its 800th episode on Sunday, February 15th. And this will be followed by its season 37 finale. And as we're sharing some Simpsons news here, I'm sure, Drew, you saw that Al Jean, he's worked on with The Simpsons since season 1. He stepped down earlier this month as the executive producer and showrunner. And in fact, the very last episode that Gene worked on aired on November 2nd. Whereas this past Friday, November 14th, we also lost another longtime member of the Simpson creative team, but in a far sadder, more permanent way. Emmy Award-winning writer Dan McGrath was felled by a stroke at the age of 61, and McGrath had also worked on King of the Hill and PJs, and I was wondering, during your time at Disney, he also worked on Gravity Falls. Did you have any dealings with Dan?
I never did, but everyone says that he was just the most wonderful, sweetest man. And yeah, like you said, he worked on so many amazing projects. And I believe he was like the supervising director for the first season of Gravity Falls. So he basically kind of, kept an eye on the kids, while they were getting that one up and running. But yeah, I mean, he wrote Bart of Darkness, that Simpsons episode with the camp, and I mean, just an amazing guy, and to lose him at 61 is just it's terrible.
It is. All right, sliding back to somewhat happier television animation related news. Family Guy returns again on the February 15th. That's along with their season 24 premiere. But this is going to be their 450th episode. So we get the 800 Simpsons and the 450th Family Guy in the same night. And then if we jump ahead a week, Sunday, February 22nd, we get the kickoff of the 20th season of American Dad. So, a lot of lengthy animation chugging along there. Now, if we want to talk about newer stuff, I have to ask Drew, are you familiar at all with these Labubu dolls, these collectible things that
tangentially, yes, I've seen them around. I have not had any personal interaction with them, but
okay, all right.
Yeah, I saw the news. So yeah,
Sony has acquired the rights. They're going to do a full length animated film built around these collectibles. So maybe they can do a double feature with the Viewmaster movie. On the other hand, we had the Disney earnings call this past week, and as Bob Iger was talking about things that are in the works of the company. Did you see this thing about, making AI tools available to Disney Plus subscribers with the notion that, you yourself can then create something, that features the Disney catalog or characters or the Pixar characters or Marvel. And if Disney likes it, they will then make it available on their subscription streaming service.
Yeah, I mean they've already started engaging with user-generated content on the site, so this seems to be a natural extension with AI being used to kind of like channel the IP and do things like so you can make shorts with Stitch or something. I don't know. It seemed very weird, and it seemed like he kind of misspoke about the degree of which AI is going to be used. But it certainly was not enough to prevent an absolute firestorm of controversy online. I'm sure you saw the amount of Disney creators who spoke out against this. I believe Dana Terrace said, "Screw it. Pirate Owl House, just do anything you can to not watch Disney Plus," which I love. I love her, and I love that sentiment.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Dana. Now it's important to stress here that there are still those folks out there who are doing this old school. For example, Bill Plimpton. We just got the trailer for his next project, Whale 52. Which is being directed by Daniel Needham and produced and animated by Bill. And I want to remind folks that Bill, we were just talking about 1985, about Taft, deciding to revive the Jetsons back then. Bill Plimpton's very first short film, Boomtown, was made in 85, and he's a very prolific guy. So the film that actually broke through for him, Bill also animated that year, Your Face. That was the one that got nominated for Oscar. And since then, Bill has produced almost 100 films. So and none of it with AI. So that's worth noting.
I've seen Whale 52, by the way, Jim, and it is wonderful. And I did a little talk with some of the potentially nominated short film directors a couple weeks ago at Sony or at Walt Disney Animation Studios.
You did,
and Bruce Vilanch came to the screening. Jim, can you believe that?
Oh no!
He's the voice in Whale 52, and he is a legend. And he was there. They were like, Bruce Vilanch is here, and it's like, yeah, I saw him. He's kind of hard to miss. He's kind of a He's an oversized personality and such a lovely guy. So yeah, and the short is amazing. So hopefully everyone will get to see it soon. Yeah.
Did you get to read Bruce's latest book? It seemed like a bad idea at the time.
No, that could be my autobiography. But yeah,
wonderful, wonderful book. All right. Well, anyway, folks, Bill Plimpton. Almost 100, hand-drawn films. I mean, mind you, that's nice, but it's not nearly 300 podcasts, which is what you'll find if you head on over to the archives of Light the Fuse, which is the official Mission Impossible podcast that Drew did with Charles Hood. And every single episode of that series is loaded with amazing behind-the-scenes stories about that amazingly entertainment film series. And by the way, I'm hoping that people do say the same thing about the other podcasts we post here at Jim Hill Media, that you hear some amazing stories, and these include Disney Dish with Len Testa, the Epic Universal podcast that I do with Eric Hersey. Likewise, I Want That Too, Disney Merch podcast I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also want to remind you about Manufacturing the Magic. That's the themed entertainment history podcast we host here that's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid. There'll be a brand new episode of that available for your listening pleasure this Saturday, November 22nd. Likewise, there'll be a brand new episode of The Case 4 with Chris Cox, dropping tomorrow, Wednesday, November 19th. And as for Disney Unpacked, that's a thing I do with Mr. Testa and Mr. Schul over on Patreon. As I mentioned, we're down here doing IAPA, and going to be recording a show or two on the show floor and be doing some new walkthroughs over in the park. So look for those to turn up soon. And beyond that, just want to acknowledge Eric Hersey and David Gray, who do such a great job of editing and producing this podcast. And let's see, as we close out here, do have a quick favor. If you folks could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this show as well as Light the Fuse. And I guess we need to mention social media. Where can the nice folks find you, Drew?
Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt, on Instagram and Twitter mostly.
Cool. All right. You can find me on Instagram and X as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And anyway, that's going to do it for this week's folks. Drew's got a wedding to get to. So on behalf of Mr. Taylor, thank you for listening to this week's show, and we will be back soon.